Jeff alluded to, looking toward the draft. But we continue with the annual league meetings in effect, full effect down in Orlando this week today. You see all the coaches there. The NFC coaches had media availability from some quarterback talk in Dallas and New York to the Bears and the Commanders at the top of the draft. We have so much to get to. We're going to get to all of it. The NFL draft less than a month away, and all signs continuing to point to the Bears taking Caleb Williams #1 overall. Oh, look at him. He says, come get me. Why not? Chicago continues to do all the vetting of the quarterback, spending lots of time with him up close and personal at the Combine, but also at the Pro Bowl and at his Pro Day. This morning, head coach Matt Eberflus talked about his time with Williams at the Pro Day last week.
I started out about an hour and 20 minutes, just him and I in the room together. And just really hearing his journey, from being a little guy, and what I gleaned from that was how his mother and father love him very much, and very supportive, and you could see his character, his football character there, his football knowledge as I talked through that, and it was a really good visit.
Jeff Darlington back with us. Jeff, what is the buzz down there in Orlando when it comes to Chicago and that #1 overall pick?
Well, the cloak of mystery that we try to create going up to the draft definitely feels like it is diminished, given the fact that the Justin Fields trade did occur and the way that Eberflus is talking about Caleb Williams. Something else that he mentioned was that they actually went out to dinner, the Chicago Bears hosting a dinner for Williams and his wide receiver teammates. And something that they said that they loved about it was to see Williams interacting with his teammates at that dinner. They could tell the amount of respect that he gets from his teammates. So by all means, Caleb Williams at this point is checking every single box. It feels like we are headed like a freight train toward hearing Williams' name drafted as the #1 overall pick. I know we'll continue to, I guess, wonder, but based on the way that they are talking about him, it would be a shock if they did not wind up drafting Caleb Williams.
Toot toot, Caleb Williams train, thanks to Jeff. If the Bears stay at 1, it will be the first time in team history that they've drafted first overall. Their highest pick is Mitch Trubisky. That was at 2nd overall in 2017. Now, as we continue our draft talk, here's a look at Mike Tannenbaum's top 3 picks in his latest mock draft. And no surprise that they are the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft. Caleb Williams going #1 to the Bears. Then Drake Maye goes 2 to the Commanders. Jaden Daniels goes 3 to the Patriots. And as for that plan at #2, let's zero in on that. Commanders reporter John Keim posted this morning. Head coach Dan Quinn said he's just now getting into draft work. Said if anyone thinks they know what the Commanders are doing at 2, they really don't know. Quote, GM Adam Peters and I aren't there yet, he said. Let's bring in Tim Hasselbeck to the conversation here on NFL Live. And Tim, is there any choice besides taking a quarterback here for Washington?
I don't think so. When you look at their current roster and it's Marcus Mariota and Jake Fromm on the right, like that's they're going quarterback at some point. I mean, most people believe that it's at 2. I think that it'll be at 2. I don't believe that there is a case to not go quarterback. Obviously, when you have a regime change, it's often a good time to restart at quarterback. And so I think it really should be a foregone conclusion that that's the direction they head.
Yeah, I know that you like Drake Maye a lot, so you're probably in line with Tannenbaum here for that #2 pick. Who do you think it should be for the Commanders and why?
Laura, I do think if Drake Maye's still available, which it sounds like he will be, I think he's the pick. Like I believe he's the best quarterback prospect in this class, and I know that there are other talented prospects in the class like Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, as well as other guys later in the first round. But I think he's the type of player that checks so many boxes in the evaluation process of what you can potentially do with him, the control you can give him at the line of scrimmage. I think he's going to be a better pro than college player, and I think he projects to be a guy that's a decade-plus starter at the position. And so, look, you have to wonder a little bit, on the fit in terms of what they want to do offensively. I will say, if you think about 2 years ago, Phil Longo was offensive coordinator at North Carolina. It's a spread system. It's a kind of a Lincoln Riley, Cliff Kingsbury derivative, and that was his best year in college. And he certainly has the athleticism to play in that style of offense. That's
a really good point. People reference that year as the best year, and the offense would fit with what the Commanders may want to do. Mike Tannenbaum's GM mock draft hit ESPN.com this morning. He threw some major curveballs, as he likes to do sometimes. Let's dive right in. Okay, Mike T has 6 quarterbacks being drafted in the first round of his mock draft, which you can see at ESPN.com. No surprises with the top 3 picks going in the first 3. The top 3 QBs going in the first 3 picks. He's got J.J. McCarthy going 4th to the Cardinals, Bo Nix going 12th to the Broncos, and Michael Penix Jr. going 19th to the Rams. It'd be the first time ever that 6 quarterbacks went in the top 20 picks. All right, so let's spend some time as we got Mike here in the studio. I love when you throw these curveballs, by the way. Okay, get them out there. Let's go to J.J. McCarthy at pick number 4, because that one's pretty interesting. What was the thought process there?
Laura, I love him. I've seen him now for the better part of 3 years. Got to many of their practices, a lot of their games. He's 6'2", 220. He started 28 games. He's only lost 1. That's the best one lost for the last 50 years. When you look at third down, 3rd and 7 or longer, he's the most efficient quarterback in college football. And in big moments, going back to 2022, Illinois, they're down at home. Cold game, brings them back. Alabama, you know, in the semifinals this year, made huge plays. And then, as you're seeing here, almost had 1,000 yards rushing. So there are no holes in his game. He's the right prototype. He has great intangibles. The character sets the floor. The tape sets the floor. The character sets the ceiling. His ceiling is limitless. And if I'm Arizona and I can get somebody that is $27 million a year cheaper, 6 years younger, and more durable, it's a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, Tim, I'm thinking this all sounds good, but Arizona has a quarterback, and his name's Kyler Murray.
That's a bit of a factor. Listen, sometimes Mike will throw these curveballs, as you said, and I'm like, I don't know. But like, I have to be honest with you on this one. Like, I don't hate it whatsoever. And look, for J.J. McCarthy, that evaluation of J.J. McCarthy, I think, will be a critical component to it. Yes, younger, yes, cheaper. Are you sure that you're getting the type of player that Mike described? Now, I would say this about McCarthy. Everything Mike said is true. Played big in big moments. Obviously, they had a lot of success there. Had to compete for the job there at Michigan. So there's a bit of being battle-tested that I certainly would like. I would say this. Because of the offense that they ran at Michigan and how good they were at running the football, I do think the evaluation of him as a passer is tougher than it is on the evaluation for other guys. Just for some perspective, like he's like, you know, a little over 700, you know, attempts in college. Jaden Daniels has nearly 1,500.
Yeah.
And so I think that, look, it's tough to hold that against him. You know, it's out of his control, but it does, you know, prevent you from really understanding who he is as a passer, because there were games where he wasn't all that accurate and didn't really have a chance to prove that he could be accurate and kind of respond from it.
Yeah, the tape, to your point, is a little hard to evaluate, but he does win, as Mike alluded to. What about the Vikings and J.J. McCarthy? Did it make sense maybe as a fit for them?
Absolutely. Again, they're sitting there with 2 first-round picks, so presumptively they're going to go up for a quarterback. So, you know, when you think about going from 11 to 4, that's sort of like a win-win from a standpoint. Minnesota could get their quarterback, Arizona could get back, and we had to almost resuscitate Mel Kiper when I had these receivers, you know, falling back a little bit. But Arizona could get a receiver somewhere between 9 and 11 if they move back at some point. So I think that's certainly a possibility as we get closer to the draft. All
right, there were some more major surprises in this mock draft, so we're going to continue on with those. The wide receiver ranks really took some people by surprise. You've got Malik Nabers going to the Giants at 6, Marvin Harrison Jr. falling all the way to the Bears at 9, Rome Odunze goes 14 to the Saints, and Brian Thomas Jr. goes to the Jags at 17. A.D. Mitchell goes to the Steelers at 20, followed by Ladd McConkey going to the Cardinals at 27. Then the speedster Xavier Worthy taken by the Bills at 28. So, Mike, why is Harrison all the way down at number 9 for you to the Bears?
Okay, I love Marvin Harrison. I see Larry Fitzgerald, Laura. It's not a negative against Marvin Harrison, but if we're looking at the Giants, they were at the bottom of the league in points scored again, and they drafted Jalen Hyatt last year. Let's give him a grade of incomplete. But Malik Nabers is a point scorer. They need to score points. He had 17 yards per catch, 14 touchdowns. Here he is running right by Alabama, and you see this time and time again. Before the ball, once the ball's in his hands, he is a dynamic playmaker. So if you're thinking about, do I want Tyreek Hill or do I want Larry Fitzgerald? Now, look, I'm not saying Malik Nabers is Tyreek Hill, but he's in that conversation in terms of an explosive playmaker. And that's why for the New York Giants in 2024, I'm taking speed over size.
Yeah, I like Neighbors. So let me preface that with this. I think he has as high of a ceiling as Marvin Harrison Jr. That being said, when you got two talents that are so good at wide receiver the way that they've put on tape, I got to start nitpicking a little bit. And I look at the floor of it, and I think Marvin Harrison Jr. has the highest floor because he plays outside. He can play inside. Yeah. He has the footwork on the release, but even when he doesn't get clean releases with his footwork and they get hands on him, he can run right through them at his size like they're not even there. And that's going to be a big deal for these young quarterbacks that are looking for a big-time wide receiver. I love Neighbors. I think he is lightning in a bottle. But for my money, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the more surefire pick at wide receiver going into this draft.
It does seem like the gaps closed a little bit on those two, whereas so many people had Marvin Harrison Jr. just as a clear-cut #1, Malik Neighbors sneaking up on him a little bit.